Hi, wait a minute, and 1, 2, 3. Right, evening everybody. It is time for dram number 72, and I'm going to do 2 tonight, and I've remembered that dram number 73 will be 20% of the challenge done. Only 20%, and it feels like I've been doing this for ages, because I have. So, I've done everything acquired at the Newcastle Whisky Festival, which was about 3 weeks ago. Feels like an eon ago. And during that time, while I've been doing that little run of whiskies, I have had some absolutely brilliant packages sent through from fantastic members of the whisky community. So that they're not kind of feeling left out, or they're not, hopefully not feeling like I'm just sitting on them, not going to do anything. I'm going to do a little run of whiskies that have been donated by various people over the last 2 weeks, because it's been fantastic, absolutely brilliant. There's some brilliant people out there, incredibly kind, incredibly generous, sending these packages through the post of some fantastic whiskies, or I'm hoping what will be fantastic whiskies, or ones that I've been really interested in trying. So thank you to everybody that's been involved, and hopefully over the next few days I'll be able to say thank you to each of them individually as I go through. So tonight I'm going to do 2 grains, simply because I thought I'd try and shake things up a little bit. I'm going to do a big run of Scotch potentially in about a week's time, because I seem to have done everything, or it feels like I've done everything but Scotch, sort of a lot of world whiskies and bourbons and everything like that, and Scotch seems to have been neglected, and I do have an awful lot of Scotch now to go through. I have potentially another hefty donation coming through at the weekend that I'm picking up. If all of those that are on the list that he said he will provide are actually provided, I'm not doubting him. Anything could happen. They could get dropped, they could get smashed, lost, whatever. But I am looking at this point in time at enough drams and samples to get me to day 230, which is just phenomenal. I mean, it's mind-blowing I've even got that far. Obviously, still a large chunk away from 366, but over half. I mean, it's just incredible that I've managed to get that far, or samples enough to get that far. To everybody that's been involved, the money donations have been unbelievable. I'm nearly at 500 quid, which I know I asked for 5 grand, but that was literally 5 grand when I set up the Just Giving page. To be anywhere near 500 to go towards the charity is already just beyond my wildest dreams. I had no idea how much, if anything, I'd be able to raise. So to be in this position right now, where to even have, say, 230 samples and £500 towards the charity is just incredible. It stuns me, it really does. It's really humbling. It seems like it's actually caught a bit of imagination, and I think the fact that I've got this far, hopefully it's proving that I am actually intending to do this. I've still got a way to go. Obviously, if you know people out there, the websites are on the bottom of the screen here. They're also at the end of the videos, in terms of check out the list of whiskies. If there's anything on there that's not crossed off, I am updating it as regularly as I can. I'm basically waiting until I get samples before I cross them off, just in case somebody says, oh yes, I'll send you this, and then it doesn't happen. I don't want to basically cross something off that somebody else might have been able to provide, thinking, oh right, well he's got it already, I won't send it, and actually I could have done with it. So likewise, I don't want people to send samples that I either already have or isn't necessarily the core one. I don't want you sending really expensive samples through the post. I don't want to be, not wasting, but I don't want to be taking that type of whiskey away from you. If you can spare 2.5 CLs, which is slightly smaller than that, of the core product, and you can spare it and you're willing to send it, that is all I'm asking for. So enough of the appeal, let's get on with the first grain, because I'm going to do 2 grains tonight. Now this one was from a guy called Jim Booth. He didn't want me to put his picture up, which is absolutely fine. Like I said, as I've said previously, I've had somebody that didn't even want a name mentioned. That's absolutely fine. If you're happy for me to say thank you in whichever way you would want me to do that, I am more than willing to say thank you. If you want me to punt your business and put an advert on the screen and anything like that, I will do that just by way of saying thank you for sending these through. But Jim Booth has sent through 9 samples, of which this is one. And this is called Teeling Single Grain. Now the bottle looks like this, and the World Whiskies Awards were 2 weeks ago now, and this actually won Best Irish Grain. Now there's not a huge amount of Irish grains, but it's still a decent award to win. So I'm quite looking forward to this because I've never come across Teeling, which is a relatively new company. Now, Teeling is the surname of a family that have been involved in Irish whisky production since 1782 in one form or another. And a guy called John Teeling was a man who converted the Cooley distillery, which is one of the few Irish distilleries that are still operational now and is here, just south of the Northern Ireland border. So it's in the Republic of Ireland, isn't it, rather than Northern Ireland? Yes, so it's just in the Republic. And he converted the Cooley distillery to operate from essentially potato schnapps to making whiskey, and this was in like 1985 to 1987. Was very successful, did very well, and was ultimately bought by the Beam Company, who became Beam Suntory. And that was in, I'm going to say early 2000s. I think it was about 2007 that they bought that. And he has 2 sons called Stephen and John, and this is a picture of them now. And they decided that they wanted to set up, after the Cooley sale, they decided that they wanted to set themselves up as a whiskey distillery. So they were founded in 2012 as the Teeling Whiskey Company. And in 2015, they opened their own distillery in the centre of Dublin now, which is here. Now, this was the first distillery in Dublin to be operational since 1976, when it was the Jameson's distillery. It wasn't the Jameson's distillery they moved into, but Jameson's distillery was the last one operational in Dublin. That moved in 1976. There wasn't a distillery operational there. It's not actually, Teeling Distillery is not that far away from the Guinness Storehouse, which I have been to, and is a pretty decent tourist attraction. So if you're in Dublin and you fancy a walk and you fancy getting some Guinness and then also potentially Dram A whiskey, sounds like a decent walk. So they were founded in 2012 and the distillery opened in 2015, but I believe that they were using whiskey from another distillery, and I don't know which one it is. I've been trying to find out because it's fairly obvious. Like this single grain was released in 2013, so obviously before they had their own distillery, so they were using stock from somewhere else, but I'm not 100% certain where. If somebody knows, wants to put it in the comments, that would be fantastic, because I'm intrigued to find out where it was from. So, sorry, it's not Stephen and John. Stephen and Jack are the 2 sons of John. So Stephen and Jack. Now Stephen is more kind of marketing and sales, whereas Jack is more the actual operation of the distillery itself. So this is a single grain. They also have a single malt, and I think they have a blended whiskey as well. Certainly got a single malt. You're looking at about 35 quid for this. And like it's single grains, generally there's not that many of them, mainly because the majority of grains go into blended whiskies as the kind of filler, for want of a better word. So Irish single grains is even rarer. So I'm very intrigued to find out this, because I've not had many grains in my life, but those that I have had have actually been pretty decent, and they've got quite a distinctive flavour. Now this has been matured in Californian Cabernet Sauvignon wine casks, so red wine casks. So there is a very, very subtle pinky hue to it. You're probably not going to pick up on the camera at all, but there is this very, very, very slightly pinky tinge on it. It's not obvious, and I'm not going to call it a pink whiskey by any stretch of the imagination, but there is a slight hint of that type of cask that's been in there. I'm not sure how old it is either. Grain whiskey tends to need quite a long time in cask because at its core it's quite tight and quite hard. And it's quite a hard tasting, it's pleasant, but it's quite a hard tasting whiskey compared to something like single malt. Now, it doesn't have an age statement on it. I say that now, I'll probably look at the label again and find out that it does have an age statement on it, but I'm fairly certain it doesn't have an age statement on it, so I'm not sure how old it is, but it'd be very interesting to find out what this is like. And it's also bottled at 46%. There's a lovely fruitiness on it, but there is that metallic-y edge that grain whiskies I've had, I always associate with grain whiskey, and partly the kind of Irish pot still element as well. But yeah, there's a sharpness to it and a cleanness to it, but it's pleasant. It's not a rough sharpness or an edginess, and there is some sweetness in there, which I would pick up from that cask as well. It smells very interesting indeed. Whoa! Wow! It doesn't hit the back of your throat, it hits the centre of your mouth and it kind of explodes. It's very, very juicy, very mouth-watering. There's a real juicy hard candy feel to it, very much kind of bramble fruits, but fresh bramble fruits. It's clean. There is a metallic feel to it, a sort of fingers on copper pennies and then licking, but it's not overpowering and it's not unpleasant. Sweetness comes through on that time, and yeah, it's a really, really nice juicy red fruit. Red currants, black currants, blackberries. It's sharp, and it's not difficult to drink neat, but you're not going to need a lot of it. It's not, I don't want to say it's not pleasant to drink neat, because it is, but because it's got this sharpness to it, you don't really want to drink a lot of it. It's not one to kind of relax and sit by the fire and just have it gently waft down your throat and relax you and chill you out. It needs a little bit of work, but it is a very pleasant whiskey, and it's very different. It's unusual, it's distinctive. And I like it a lot. It's got some fantastic flavours in there, and they're really distinctive, sharp, kind of in-your-face type of flavours. Smokiness? Maybe, but not. Yeah, sorry about that. I realised that it stopped recording, and apparently I'd run out of hard disk, but the iPad decided not to tell me that. Anyway, I was saying that for somebody that likes softer, sherried whiskies, easy drinking whiskies, it's probably not really for you, but then grain whiskey probably isn't really for you anyway. But overall, very, very good whiskey indeed. In terms of winning a World Whiskey Award, can't really argue with that at all. Really distinctive flavour, really like that finish in the Cabernet Sauvignon cask as well. Gives it a nice kind of berry fruitiness to it as well. And all in all, for 35 quid, I think that's a pretty bloody good whiskey indeed. Right, I shall rinse out, crack on with the next one, and try and be a bit quicker because I might run out of hard disk again. I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.